From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The need for speed.
We've been here one day so far and I can't even write down everything I've learned on one sheet of paper.
Why these Louisiana 4-H'ers are learning new marsh maneuvers. A new packer prepares to break ground in Missouri, while Ukrainian ag gets set to resume grain exports.
I'm confident that this will be a successful initiative.
And the Federal Reserve makes another move.
This was about what the market expected, and you didn't get much of a reaction when the announcement was made.
And as summer weather dampens the growing season for farmers across the country. That's today on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Some farm fields are trying to dry out while others get baked in the heat. Summer weather is in full force this week. We start with flooding. Historic rains fell across Missouri and Kentucky on Tuesday, and more heavy downpours may be on the way. Now take a look at these pictures from Sidney Brongard near Troy, Missouri. That area saw 14 inches of rain in just a matter of hours. Soybeans and corn standing in water. Now across the region, emergency crews rushed to help stranded motorists as roads were covered in water. Near St. Louis, some homes were underwater. People had to be rescued by boat. The storm setting a record for the wettest day ever. This is what it looked like in Floyd and Ivo County, Kentucky. Trees and power poles down as water rushed through neighborhoods and down roads. Mudslides and power outages were reported in places that saw up to 6 inches of rain Tuesday afternoon. Yet in other regions, high heat, temperatures of 109 along the Pacific Northwest and into the Southeast. Parts of the Corn Belt have been dealing with drought and dryness, even in places where crops look decent. Agronomists say they could use a drink.
Boy, it's been a variation, anywhere from some of the places here in the state got 3 to 5 inches yesterday, a day before, and sounds like a lot of rain today. So it depends on where you live, whether you're fighting dry conditions or whether you're going to be fighting wetter conditions itself. We're actually in pretty good shape right now, but we're kind of on the razor's edge, meaning that a little bit of water would sure help.
Now Ferry says those soybeans have been fighting spider mites due to the heat and dryness this month. It sounds like those heavy rains aren't over as that front stalls out across the Ohio Valley. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with the very latest. Matt?
Yeah, Clinton, and that front stalling out across the Mid-South, that's bringing more rain even as we head towards the weekend. So something we'll continue to keep an eye on, especially with our root zone. Still dealing with some damp conditions here up in the parts of the Great Lakes down through the Mississippi River Valley, but extremely dry still in the east. So all that rainfall will help some drought conditions, but also kind of don't want all of that at once. And then looking back out towards the west, parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas getting some much needed rain. And then back into the Four Corners region there with monsoon season, we're going to be dealing with even more rainfall here over the next couple of weeks. And that will really help drought conditions back in the west. So that's a look at our root zone. We'll continue to watch how things improve or kind of get a little bit worse over the next couple of weeks. But it does look like we will see some improvements, especially with our drought monitor right here through the Mid-South. And this is more rain coming for Tennessee all the way back into parts of Kansas and into the west through this coming week and into next week. And then these are the areas later today. We're going to talk more about this in just a little bit, but excessive rainfall could be a problem for parts of Colorado and the Southwest, and then also right through the Mississippi River Valley, places like St. Louis, and right through Kentucky and up into the Mid-Atlantic states. And we're going to talk more about that coming up here in just a little bit. Clinton?
All right, thanks, Matt. A new survey says 96% of community bankers expect a recession to hit within the next 18 months. The study done by Intrify. It talked to CEOs, presidents, and leaders from nearly 400 institutions, and about half of them said a recession would start this year. Meanwhile, new economic data is due out this week. Second quarter GDP numbers, first quarter numbers came in negative. Inflation, well, it continues to weigh on Americans' finances as it runs near 40-year highs. However, the Biden administration continues to cite strong numbers in jobs and manufacturing.
We were seeing industrial output sustain and in positive territory 5 of the last 6 months. And so the totality of the economic data is consistent with that type of transition and is not consistent with a recession.
I think there's a real sense that this out-of-control economy is about to go over a cliff.
A recession is commonly defined as having two back-to-back negative quarters of gross domestic product. Can the Federal Reserve help to cool inflation? On Wednesday, it released its latest plan for interest rates. Michelle Rook has been following it for us. Michelle.
Clinton, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates 3/4 of a point for the second consecutive month. The market was already anticipating it and now turns its attention to how long that aggressive pace is going to last. The Fed's policy rate is now set at a range of 2.25 to 2.5%, but the Federal Open Market Committee signaled in its post-meeting statement that more is coming, saying that it anticipates that the ongoing increases in the target range will be appropriate. Market watchers say this indicates the Fed is poised to increase rates again in September.
Basically, the Fed said that they were going to wait for further data before deciding how big of a rate hike to make the next time. The default assumption is that they still need to be aggressive, a 3/4 point again in the next meeting. But they basically said they're going to wait on some of the data. This was about what the market expected, and you didn't get much of a reaction when the announcement was made.
Even though many commodity prices, including grains in the energy sector, have cooled, it may take a while for inflation to slow down.
What they look at as a soft landing, try and raise interest rates just enough so you don't kill the economy. But inflation rate continues. We think over the next couple months, you're going to see the inflation rate go up to 10%, Michelle, just because you kick off 1 month, add another.
He says it's a tough balancing act to slow down inflation without setting the economy backwards. With the recent retail slowdown, the Fed will need to be careful, but Rose says they need to get inflation under control now or the economy will pay for it later. Markets are currently expecting the central bank to raise rates through the end of 2022, a sum total of a full point, and then reverse course in 2023.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Ethanol advocates are praising a new bipartisan Senate bill called the Next Generation Fuels Act. Now, the legislation would establish a high-octane, low-carbon fuel standard. Now, its authors include senators from Iowa, Illinois, and Minnesota. The Renewable Fuels Association applauding the bill, saying it's clear the country will continue to rely on liquid combustible fuels. Now, the act would establish a certification for high-octane, 95 or 98-octane fuels made with 20 to 30% ethanol. It would require car manufacturers to design and warrant vehicles to use those fuels by the year 2026. Now, the National Corn Growers Association says the high-octane standard is expected to lower greenhouse gas emissions by at least 40%. The first Ukrainian grain exports are still planned for this week. That's despite continued Russian attacks in port cities of Ukraine. On Wednesday, Turkey opened a center to coordinate shipping, and officials say they've established a safe route for ships that won't require the clearing of sea mines. They expect the first ships could leave this week. Now, all parties have expressed their commitment to make this initiative a reality. That's according to the interim coordinator for the UN.
Are you confident that Russia will commit, given the fact we've already seen an attack?
I'm confident that this will be a successful initiative, yes, and we're going to work very hard to make sure that it does happen.
Uncertainty is still high with Russian attacks on major ports like Odessa. That's raised questions about whether Russia will allow active Ukrainian grain exports. Plus, Russia's deputy foreign minister warned that the deal to restart Ukrainian grain exports on the Black Sea could collapse if obstacles to Russia's agricultural exports are not promptly removed. Despite the warning, he said he was still hopeful the deal would hold. Groups like the International Chamber of Shipping are also working out safety and insurability issues with shipping grain in a war zone. Did the commodity markets react to the Fed's announcement? We'll dig into that coming up next. And later, take a tour of the marshlands of Louisiana as these kids learn about their importance during summer camp today in the country.
Ag Day is brought to you by the End Zone by Farm Shop MFG, which allows you to rehydrate your soybeans from 10 to 13%. On a 20,000 bushel bin, that's an extra semi-load added to your bottom line. Order your End Zone fan control by July 31st and receive $200 off.
So Soybean futures continue to charge higher, topping $14 on the November contract. Michelle Rook joins us once again with a bigger look at Wednesday's markets and reaction to the Federal Reserve.
Joining us with today's market analysis, Alan Brugler with Brugler Marketing. And really the markets, the commodities sector really didn't react to the Fed announcement on Wednesday, did they?
No, we had a pretty good move, particularly in soybeans during the day prior to the announcement. And then we just kind of sat there and I think waited for the chairman's commentary, which was coming after the markets closed. So there could still be a delayed reaction, but again, the Fed did what was expected, and we're trading other factors, Ukrainian grain exports and U.S. weather primarily.
So let's talk about that, because soybeans seeing the biggest rally on the weather, but also this new contract high move that we've seen in August soybean meal.
Yeah, the soybean meal move has just been phenomenal. The first 2 days of the week we were up $40 a ton, and then we tacked on some more on Wednesday. So that's adding a lot of value to a bushel of soybeans. It allows the processors to pay up. I haven't looked in detail to see if it's all just short covering getting out of the August, or if there's more aggressive new buying involved. But we know generally in a crush spread, the crusher's buying the beans and selling the meal futures and selling the oil futures.
So you don't think it's necessarily a demand push right now?
We may be seeing a little bit of concern about supplies in August. As we get towards the end of the crushing cycle for the year and some of the processors start to take downtime, maybe a little bit of a push here to make sure you've got coverage.
Corn and wheat, though, setting back here kind of in tandem. You mentioned the Ukrainian grain situation. We also had spring wheat quality council tour results up in North Dakota. Also weighed on the market, at least wheat.
Yeah, I think the wheat quality tour definitely hit the Minneapolis. Minneapolis was up yesterday and faded back a little bit on Wednesday. The yields were looking a little better than expected on the first day of the tour. And, of course, the results, the final yield estimate will come out on Thursday.
Still a lot of uncertainty there. Thanks for joining us, Alan Brugler with Brugler Marketing. More AgDay coming up.
To talk to Alan about his ag market professional services, call Brugler Marketing and Management at 402-697-3623 or visit his website, www.bruglermarketing.com. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Meteorologist Matt Yarosavik joining us here, taking a look at our national forecast and starting with the areas where we could see some flash flooding today.
Yeah, big areas out in the west and across parts of the east, the mid-south up into the Ohio Valley. We've got chances for heavier rainfall and some localized flash flooding heading into this afternoon. And taking a look at the map, you can see the excessive rainfall outlook for today. Now, it breaks it down into categories slight, moderate, and high. We don't have any in the high category, but if you look out here in the west, an area of yellow and then some red there in parts of Colorado. So if we zoom in on that, what you'll notice is the slight risk. This is a 20% chance of seeing the potential for heavier rainfall, creating flash flooding within a 25-mile radius of any point. And you can see Phoenix in there, Albuquerque up to Durango, and even Denver in part of that. And then here, Boise, Oklahoma, all the way through parts of southern Colorado there in the moderate risk. That's a 40% chance of seeing that heavier rainfall, creating the chance for flash flooding. Then we move eastward, an area that's seen a ton of rain over the past few days right here in Missouri, still outlined in a 20% chance there, a slight risk for excessive rainfall today, even back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, down to Memphis, Tennessee, and all the way up into the mountains of Pennsylvania and Virginia, and then right here through much of Kentucky, northern Tennessee, and even West Virginia there, dealing with that moderate risk for excessive rainfall today. So something to be mindful of out there. And here's a look at that precipitation. Notice where a lot of that is, right across the state of Tennessee, back here in the west as well. And then those pop-up up monsoon showers and thunderstorms, dealing with those from northern Mexico up into the Four Corners region. So we're going to continue to see a lot of that. Now, this is the one front moving across the east here. That's going to continue to bring showers and thunderstorms with it. The chances there for a few stronger thunderstorms as well across the Tennessee Valley, and that will continue to move eastward. Those showers and storms back in the west will also move east through Kansas and Oklahoma during the afternoon tomorrow, and then heading into the weekend, continuing to move eastward. And then south of there, hot and humid. North of there, a little bit cooler, but we're going to keep around this same pattern at least through the end of this week, with temperatures in the 90s and triple digits across the Gulf Coast. And that's all because of the jet stream here. It's staying warm and humid down to the south, a little bit cooler to the north, but then we bring back in the big ridge and potential for another heat wave heading into August and the next couple of weeks across the lower 48. And we'll continue to track that right here on Ag Day. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Elizabethtown, Kentucky, heavy rain and thunderstorms, a high near 87 degrees. Jordan, Montana, sunny and mild, a high near 81 degrees. And Winslow, Arizona, heavy rain and thunderstorms, a high near 88 degrees.
A new beef packer is set to break ground in Missouri. We'll have details coming up next. And later, summer camp, well, it's all about fun, but in Louisiana, it's also about learning today in the country. A new processor is set to break ground in Missouri next month. American Foods Group says its beef harvest plant is a go after securing funding for the $450 million project. The 500,000 square foot facility is set to be built in Warren County. Leaders say they expect to have a daily capacity of 2,400 head and employ around 1,300 workers. American Foods Group is based out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Beef exports continue to be a hot topic at this week's Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting in Reno, Nevada. The U.S. Meat Export Federation saying that variety meats from the U.S. are on a record pace. Now, through May, this year's exports have already reached $526 million. That's up 33% from last year, when beef variety meat topped $1 billion for the first time.
Last year we exported $457 million of beef tongues to Japan, which was a record high. Tongues at about $20 per head, and that's double what it was only back in 2015. So while we in the U.S. generally don't really appreciate these types of items, in a lot of cases, these variety meats are the premium items in some of our international markets.
Reynolds says they've also seen big demand for beef lips and hearts to places like Mexico and Indonesia. If an airboat ride is music to your ears, well, buckle up. We're headed for the coastal wetlands of Louisiana with a group of 4-H'ers next.
Registration is open for the 2022 Pro Farmer Crop Tour. Join our team as we gain insight on the 2022 growing season in person or online. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
4-H camp is a great part of summer. Well, this year, a group of Louisiana 4-H'ers got to experience the wonders of Louisiana's coast. They learned how important the wetlands are, not only to the state, but to the country. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux reports.
Riding in an airboat, touring a Chenier Plain beach, and learning how to throw a cast net were just some of the activities a group of Louisiana 4-H students got to do in just one morning. For more than 30 years, students from across the state have attended Marsh Maneuvers, a summer camp designed to introduce the students to the economic, cultural, and environmental values of this unique place.
People come down here to hunt, fish, bird watch, just to take in the views. So we like to keep this area healthy so that everyone can enjoy it for generations to come.
Shohanna Martin had heard stories about Marsh Maneuvers from her older brother, and she wasn't about to pass up the opportunity to attend. And the camp did not disappoint.
My favorite thing was dissecting the fish and learning about how to age them, and then getting to cut open an alligator egg was a really cool hands-on experience, so I'd love to do it again.
We've been here one day so far, and I can't even write down everything I've learned on one sheet of paper. And I only expect to learn more.
Of course, it helps to include an element of fun to enhance the learning experience.
So you got to infuse all the educational stuff with fun to keep them engaged and so that it really impacts them and they remember it and take it home with them and share it with everyone else.
Many of the campers felt that 1 week was too short to learn all the secrets of the Louisiana marshes. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
All right, thanks, Craig. And that's all of our time this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.